Are there organizations outside of the university, specific universities, that maybe review universities on this kind of thing and like put out, say we're really proud what this university is doing, or for students who say that they want to go to a school that's really doing a good job with this, where would a prospective college student look to identify which colleges or universities are leading the field in this?
All right, this is less of a feel-good answer. I don't think there is a big universal organization that reviews universities as to how inclusive they are. Mm-hmm. I wish there was. Okay. But I don't think that exists yet. We do have smaller societies for particular researchers. So, for example, the Society for the Advancement of Chicanos, Native Americans in Science, the SACNAS. You could use the SACNAS network to kind of connect with other people at universities, and then you yourself manually figure out what university is going to be most inclusive and best for you. Mm-hmm. And there's other organizations like SACNAS, like SHEP is for engineers of color. There's a neuroscience version. Mm-hmm. So you could do it that way using the network of Black and Hispanic researchers at universities across the country. Okay. But I don't think there's a USA reviews of anti-racism at universities. Though we do talk about making something like that pretty often in these student leadership groups. Yeah. Where if only there was a way we could just give the university a grade each year, how well they're doing. Because
then you'd incentivize the university. You're talking about using the university to incentivize the professors.
You hold them
then once you incentivize the university,
yes, that's fantastic. So it sounds like there's a good opportunity for that. So any students out there who have a little bit of extra time on their hands,
if you feel like doing extra work again,
right? If you feel like doing a whole lot of unpaid work to build this, here is the direction you go.
Or even better, if somebody out there is working on that, we'd love to talk to them. So hopefully we can do our research on that and find out, other people who are working on this problem and other ways that they're finding solutions to it. Because I think it makes sense that you need something even above the university that provides some accountability or incentive, even better. I love the way you talk about incentives, because it's less of when you think about the carrot and the stick approach, right? The more you can make good carrots and get everybody excited about the carrots, I feel like the less you need the stick. And the less pushback you get. The more you use the stick, the more you end up with this people people don't like the stick. So you end up with a negative response to it. And I love hearing that there's ways to to provide incentives to make changes here that gets more people on board. I think that's so fantastic. So awesome.
Yeah, there are also disincentives too. The NIH has actually really led the charge on creating this disincentive structure, which is why GRIT even was able to exist, because the NIH was all right, if you don't have enough students of color on your training grant, we're taking away your training grant.
Wow,
and,
that's amazing.
The departments were
oh shit,
we've never tried to get students of color before. What do we do, right? And so then they realized they had these students who were willing to do this stuff for them and teach them how to do it. And they're okay, this is a distinct monetary benefit for us because we can't lose this training grant. We need this money. And to keep this training grant, we need diverse students. So here, we're going to help us get these diverse students.
Do you know when that started?
GRIT started around 2016. So I think the training grant diversity requirement must have happened somewhere around 2015, 2016, but I could be wrong.
Okay. And do you know who's...
it was a relatively recent thing.
Do you know who's enabling that to happen? Who would be responsible for making a change like that at the NIH level? Is it Congress that it pushes for that kind of stuff? Or is it just, it happened to be that there were people at the NIH who recognized that this was a problem and they were we're going to do something about it?
Yeah. So it was definitely the people who write and review the grants, and the people who to say, we're going to make this many training grants, we're going to give them to this many schools, they will have this much money. The people who build the grants would be the people who put in these requirements. I don't know what particular office or position within the NIH does that, but it would be somewhere towards the top of grant administration.
That's an interview we need to get. We need to figure out who was responsible for making that kind of change and talk to them and find out, what led to that and find out how we can do more kind of stuff like that. Because that's so exciting to hear that, because at the end of the day, funding is everything, right? Mm-hmm. And whoever holds the money is able to influence, not just what research gets done, but how the research is being done, and recognizing that it's so important that we have diversity at the the student level, at the research level, at the professor level, it gives us better science. It gives us better access to information that can change our world in better ways. So it is better for all of us. If we're interested in truth seeking, at getting to the bottom of things, at understanding our world better, the more eyeballs and perspectives we can have involved in uncovering that truth, the closer we get to the truth. So it's amazing to hear that, at the NIH that kind of, push is already happening. But the question is, how can we get more of that happening? So we're going to have to find that person and get that interview for sure.
My favorite part about that topic is if you have more diverse people, you're going to just have better research. That's already been proven. Yeah. Right. There have been studies where they make teams that are racially monolithic, gender, monogendered, and then teams that are diverse with lots of people of different races, people of different ethnicities, people of different genders. And the diverse teams just do better at problem solving as a whole. This is just a thing we know.
I am going to absolutely need to see that study. That is phenomenal. That's amazing. Because it makes sense, but science isn't just about saying things make sense. It's
nice
about proving.
Actually have the data.
Yeah. It's always great when you can look at the data and go, well, this indisputable fact that we have tested over and over, that has been peer reviewed, that we know for a fact works. Let's, maybe invest in that since it clearly works.
That's going to be another good interview. I want to interview the people who did that study. That's awesome.
That's so cool. So where do you see this kind of training going? Do you see it being built as a bigger curriculum overall as a whole? Do you see it becoming a standardized curriculum or just a standard that universities across the country and potentially across the globe kind of adhere to? Or do you think that this is where do you see this having a cap?
I'm not sure what direction this will take ultimately, on the national scale. So one example of how this happens is while I was in grad school, somewhere around 2017 or so, big Ivy League universities stopped requiring the GRE. There were a bunch of studies that were showing that the GRE was just inherently racist. It was biased towards affluent white students, and just if you were Black, you were just statistically less likely to do well in the GRE, even though that didn't reflect your ability to do well in graduate programs. So universities were like, what, the GRE tells us nothing besides giving us a reason to exclude Black students. So we're not going to require it anymore. You can apply to grad school. You don't need to take a GRE. We're just going to look at your research experience and your recommendation letters. That happened at the big Ivy League schools first. And that kind of set off a wave because all these schools compete with each other for the same pool of students.
Right.
And so if one school doesn't require the GRE, a bunch of diverse students will apply there and not here. So we have to get rid of our GRE requirement. That's usually how these kinds of changes happen.
Yep.
So if a school institutes this big diversity training program, and it's very successful, and they get a bunch of more diverse students, everyone else is just going to fall in line and follow that example because they're well, it worked for them, and we don't want to be left behind and be that one racist school that didn't do that.
Right.
So it's kind of keeping up with the Joneses is what's going to force these changes to happen, and it just depends what each individual institution manages to come up with and what's going to work, and then who's going to be the leader for the next diversity innovation.
That's amazing.
So it's hard to guess which one is actually going to happen and stick.
So, but
it's possible that someone would make a program like that.
But that's great to hear that at the very least, it sounds like there is incentive for these universities to be coming up with new ideas for making their schools more diverse, and therefore they can compete with each other in that capacity to enable more new ideas to come through.
Thanks for checking out this clip from our show.
To watch more clips or full episodes, click on our profile below.
If you want to stay up to date on all of our new episodes and videos, click subscribe.
And if you have any ideas for future guests or topics that you would like to see us cover on the show,
leave us a message in the comments or connect with us on any of our social media channels at Funtime Program
or on our website at funtimeprogram.com.
We'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.